Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Inkylesconvo. And I do want to say, by the way, as I said to James, I'm not crying or nothing like that. Like my eyes, you won't be able to see it, obviously, if you're on Spotify, obviously, or Google or wherever you listen to it. But like, it's just rashy shaving foam. I don't want to say what brand it was because, hey ho, was taking a step back. But today it's great to have another person that I'm sure everybody could relate to. And we so much banter before the podcast, and I think everybody will be able to relate to him that's in media as well. It's James OMalley. How are you doing, mate?
Hey, yeah, no, I'm doing really good. I'm really happy to be on this and to have a conversation with you. Yeah, no, how are you doing? I know you said that your shaving foam might be acting up a little
Yes,
bit.
literally. I mean, my eyes. You won't be able to see it, but
Yeah,
my eyes are red. I look like I've been like in the sun for hours, and it's definitely not sunny outside. It's cool. I'm
yeah,
all
no,
good. It's just itchy, but I'll be good. I appreciate you asking. Thank you very much.
oh no, no, I was in that situation like the other day. Although it was much dumber than shaving foam. I've just been like learning how to like try and cook properly recently,
All
because
right.
I never really like took an interest before, but like recently I've decided I'm gonna try and learn to cook, and I've been using like spices and stuff, and then like I must have like rushed washing my hands, and I went to touch my eyes, and it was like barbecue
Oh.
in my eyes. I was like, oh, the pain. So it was awful. It was awful. So yeah, I know. I feel your pain.
Oh, it's like when you cut onions for. It's completely irrelevant to what I was going to ask you today, but I didn't know this was going to happen.
We've gone so off topic.
Yeah, I didn't know this was actually going to happen to my face, but hey ho, it's someone will like it. It's like when you cut, a lot of people say when you cut onions, right, that it makes your eyes water. There is an actual thing to do with the way what's inside the onion or whatever. But anyway, so
Yeah, I heard
I
about
was
that.
cutting onions and I was like, okay, this is going to affect it, but it didn't affect me whatsoever. And I'd read this thing. It's like a rare condition where garlic affects you, and it makes your hands want. It makes like the tips of, I don't know what it's actually called. There's obviously a bit of skin there that's like what's some of the most hardened in your fingers
Yeah,
and
it
your nail
is.
and all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. But it makes that really, really itchy. And I was like, cool. So I was cutting garlic and I was like, man, my hands are itchy. I was rubbing them constantly. And I was like, I'm really tired. So I went like this and wiped my eyes. And honestly, I've never
Oh
breathed so
no.
loud in my life. Like nobody was in the house at the point, and my dog ran through. Was like, "What on earth's wrong with you?" Pretty much, and it was honestly,
It's just the pain. The pain.
it felt
Oh,
like I stood
I've
on
been
a
there.
Lego block. That's what it felt like. You know how that
It
you get
felt like
that
you'd stood on a
iffy
Lego
feeling.
block, but in your eye.
Yeah,
Oh
effectively,
my god.
yeah. It was. Yeah, it was not nice. It was not
Right,
nice.
I'll shut up and let you do your job. Sorry.
No, it's all good. But yeah, so you started off on you from what I can gather, you've clearly been interested in radio from the start, as in from a young age, just because you went to university and you were was am I right in saying that you were a radio presenter at the same time or volunteer at the same time, or was it before it, or
Um,
was there
it,
something else there?
oh, that's a question. um, to be honest, no, like the way I got into it was purely by accident.
Mhm.
I know like that's probably not the answer that you expected. It's not the answer anyone expects, but I've got a lot of friends that I've met in uni. I'm in my second year at uni,
Mhm.
um, and I've got a lot of friends that I've run into that are just as passionate about radio as I am, but like my story's so completely different to theirs. It's like unreal because everything I did by accident. I never meant to do any of it at all. It was purely accidental.
Mhm.
Um, it started, I think, probably so I was about 14 years old ish, thereabouts. Yeah, I would have been, 14. I would have been 14 years old. And we were told at the start of our school year that we had to come up with some work experience to do.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, cool. I can do that. I've always wanted to do something in media. Let's go do something at the BBC.
Mhm.
So I was like, yeah, let's do that. My mum was on board with it. The careers counselor at the time, she was on board with it. And for a while, it looked like I was going to do something at the BBC, work experience wise. I think it was going to be something in the TV department. I think it was going to be the local TV or so. I don't know. I don't know what it was going to be. And then what happened was nothing happened is what happened. They just kind of fell through and just kind of stopped talking to us, and it all just kind of disappeared. And it was about 3-4 weeks before like I had to do my work experience. And we were all panicking by this point. I was like, I don't want to go to a garage and like lift things for a week. I don't want to do that. So I believe it was my mum, I think, or the careers council. It was one of them. I know that. Found this local radio station called Tameside Radio that's in Ashton. And that's basically how it started. We went there. I went there really begrudgingly. Like I was like, I'm not going to enjoy this. I was like, I'm really not going to like this. I was by this point I'm 15. I get there and it was the typical kind of like work experience vibe, like the way you're treated. They literally like took me and this other guy that was on work experience, took us into this tiny studio and just had us like log music for ages. It was just like put facts in about the music, and it was just to keep us out of the way, essentially. And then there was this guy that came in who is my hero. Like he is like my all-time hero. He's like my icon, and like I've always looked up to him, and I always will. He's called Scott Bruton. He comes downstairs. At the time, he was presenting a show called Tameside Today, which was their mid-morning show. He is one of the coolest guys on the planet by far. He just came in the studio, saw us two there. He's like, "What are you two doing in here?" And we're like, "We're working." And he's like, "Nah, come with me." So we go with him, and he has us sit in the studio with him whilst he's presenting the show. So at like 15 years old, I'm like, this is the best job in the world. He just gets to listen to music all day, and then like he interviews someone, and then he does this and he does that, and then he gets paid for it, and it's so cool. And I was like, that's it. That's how this is what I want to do. So that was it. Basically, it all started from the BBC pulling out on me and just saying that they don't want to do anything with me anymore. From that point, I went back to school. And I was asked that year in October to go back and volunteer for a guy that was leaving the station. So I got my first overnight slot, and we kind of built that up, and then I got another slot where I was given 2 days a week. It was like midnight until 2 a.m. But I got to learn. And then ended up as an apprentice there. Did all that. Got the early breakfast show, and then I helped produce the breakfast show there, which was incredible. And then I finished my apprenticeship a little bit early, which was a problem. And then these new managers came in, who are just the two most wonderful people on the planet, called Andrew Peacock and Lyndon Wade. I don't know if they want me to mention their names, but I don't care. I've got nothing but praise for them. They came in. The station was in a bit of a bad way. It was like really unclear if I was going to be leaving at the time, and it was a mess. They came in along with a couple other people, and they restarted the radio station. Like at the time, they were getting like 1, maybe 2,000 listens a month, which for a radio station, not good. That is really not good if you're wanting to keep up. But then these guys came in, reinvented the lot of it, and they within a year they 10 times that. It was night and day. By the end of it, it was incredible. But what they did was they stopped me from leaving, and 2, they gave me a job as the breakfast presenter with Scott, and it was incredible. And I was just turning 18, and to this day, I don't want to say it's factually correct, but we haven't found a radio presenter that's on an Ofcom regulated station, that's on FM every single day, every single weekday for 3 hours a day and then does production like that's younger than I was. So we believe that I was the youngest breakfast presenter in the UK at the time.
Wow.
We think. We believe that.
Yeah.
Whether it's true is a whole different matter, but like, you know, we so I achieved a lot accidentally in that space of time. And it was all thanks to them. It was absolutely incredible. Like, that was the best job ever. It was incredible. And then that kind of like led us to here. I know it's like quite a lot to take in all at once, but it was an amazing journey. That honestly, if I could go back and relive it, I would, because not a day. It was incredible. It was an incredible journey.
You're like, that's a mental story, because you never. It really is. It shows that you can never, like, you never know what, you know, where a position is going to look like, you know, take you, because again, at the end of the day, like, you didn't actually know that going from sitting in a room writing song descriptions, which I've done myself for my local radio station, the student one, I should say, but then to then actually being a presenter, like, you probably thought that was the end of it. They were just, as you said, keep you there, but then it just shows though that you never, like, under bad management, like, things are crazy, but they came in and like completely overhauled the show. That's
it did.
So then you went from that. So then, is that why you went to university? Because maybe they were like, you know, what happened there? Because did you not want to stay on and be a presenter, or what was the transition?
I can't, Kyle. I can't go into the specifics of what happened.
All right, okay.
No. A big deal of what happened there was one, the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
So well, you know, the world got turned upside down. It looked like the end times for a good amount of time there. It was awful. And that was obviously a big factor of it. So that I left, and I decided to go to university because that seemed like the next logical step for me to do, because I always wanted to go to university, because like when I was doing all of this kind of made me grow up a little bit too quickly, I think. Because like my friends would be in like college, because obviously I didn't go to college because I was doing the apprenticeship, and I didn't really get to have that thing. I always wanted it. I always wanted to see what it was going to be like. So the next logical step, especially when the pandemic hit, was to go into uni. And I was a bit hesitant at first, because I was like, because I was very much aware that I'd unfortunately had to grow up very, very quickly. But I'm really happy that I did it. It's not been because I was, like I said, I was really hesitant at first. Like, I was like, do I do it? Do I not? Do I just do something else? And I did, and I'm really I'm really happy I've done it, because I've been able to meet some incredible people, and as well, it's very humbling as well, because like there does come a point. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I appreciate it. Don't worry.
Because there does come a point. I never considered myself to be egotistical when the whole breakfast show thing was going on. But there was like an aspect of that, looking back on it. It was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm all this, I'm all that. And then like when I get to uni and I hear other people's stories, and it's a very kind of like, no, this is real. This is like, you've already done this, and these people, you know, are wanting to get there. So can you help in any way? Can you do this? Like, you know, it was it has felt like a bit a stranger kind of responsibility to take on, but it's good. I'm really happy that I have gone to university. And I kind of took a break from all of it because like radio was as fun as it was. It was very stressful. I took a break for about a year, and yeah, I'm back on it now. I'm back doing another breakfast show for a station called Roach Valley Radio, based in it's near Castleton in Manchester. Yeah, those guys are incredible. It's like getting back into the swing of things is it's very daunting at first because like I remember my first show, I was like, can I still do this? I was like, is this going to be how it was? And yeah, thankfully, I've not heard anything too negative yet. So I feel like I'm in the right direction. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. There's been a lot going on the past 2-3 years. I think for everybody as well. Obviously not just me.
Yeah, the thing is as well is that, just of what you were saying there about being a presenter and that, I'm curious. So how does just kind of like an off-topic question, but as I say, like I'm sure people want to know, how do you manage your time then with being a presenter, with being uni? Because just to give a little bit of context to that to people that don't know, I know for a fact that me doing this podcast and the other one I do, and then college work, because I was meant to do not a lot of people know this actually, but I was meant to go down to Sunderland University, like one of the best for radio.
Yeah, of course.
And I was meant to go there, but the pandemic hit, so I did my 2 first years in Scotland at Fife College, and then I'll do my last year down there, just because why not go and have fun for a year. So I was like, yeah, I'll go down there. So but I know for a fact that the second year, which is you could technically say I'm in now, is hard. It's a lot of work. So here's me sitting here and you saying that, and I'm like, how on earth does he manage the time to do that and everything else he does? How's that? How do you? Yeah.
That is, you know what? I've never really thought about it up until recently. It like I said, I think the big message about what I've kind of said so far is, as fun as the jobs are, it's a lot of stress. Like it like no matter what. And yeah, this has been quite a lot of stress to balance everything. Like to try and keep my grades decent and as well as like presenting a decent show, and then like having a social life, and then there's just a lot of aspects of like like you'd unintentionally sign up for in the seeking of like trying to I either keep in practice or continue it because you love it, or just in any of those kind of boats that you put yourself in, you are unintentionally signing up for a lot of stress. So yeah, no, for me, I found that the best way to deal with a lot of the uni work is to just try and get it out as quick as I can. Try like show up as much as I can. Radio, try and have a decent sleeping pattern. And for a social life, just any time you can get, utilize it, I would say. I don't think since I started back at Roach Valley Radio, there's really been like I've had lazy days, but like I don't think there's been a day where I've done absolutely nothing, because like when you get to this point, it's kind of like, no, you need to utilize your free days.
You utilize every single second. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, it's I remember I think it was Andrew Peacock, my old boss, ended up saying radio, I think he can probably apply this to media in general, is that it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about but when they go into this, because a lot of people, when they start this journey, they either want fame or they're doing it because they love it, which would be my case. And they don't think about what's going to happen, because I definitely didn't. They don't think about you being either the face of something or the stress that comes with it afterwards once you've done everything. There's a lot of that has to be thought about. But once you get on top of that, and once you can manage that, because there are ways, it I don't want to say the stress ever goes away, but like it does help. It really does help, and like your mindset clears, and and what you do ultimately becomes better. I think once you kind of like realize the situation that you've put yourself in unintentionally.
True. The thing is, as well, just on that note, and everybody will know the question I'm going to ask, because I've said to somebody once that every time I say I'm going to ask this question, I'm going to say everybody will know what time question I'm going to ask. You think with what you're saying about the fact how, it's judging time, and, then you're the face of something, so you kind of have to like, it's a different kind of stress. Do you think then you have to like watch what you put in social media? And I don't mean racism or like, anything like that.
Oh, were you on about like kind of cancel culture thing? Like
no, just that's what I was saying. I don't mean like, racism and that, because you shouldn't do that anyway. I mean like in general things you shouldn't put on. So like, if you're putting on that you're drinking all the time, how people like their snaps to their mates in the pubs, or they're saying stuff they just shouldn't be saying. Do you think you should really have to reel that back, because you actually are representing like a company and stuff like that?
It depends. It really depends. There are a lot of aspects that you've got to look at with something like that. For me, I don't particularly see a problem with anything like that. Because for me, at least, I can separate social life from work. Sorry, excuse me.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, like for me, I can separate social life from work. I know I've just said that, like, media is a lifestyle. It is, but like at the same time, there are moments where you can, go out and do something. Like, it's like my Instagram, for instance. I originally set it up for radio, and I never really took an interest in Instagram originally. I don't know why. I was a weird kid. But like I never set it up, and then I set it up for radio because I was like, that would make sense. And yeah, I did actually think about that at one point. I was like, should I like not post any personal stuff? And then I thought about it. I was like, but hang on, no, you've got people like Chris Moyles or Steve Penk or Greg James, or just the list goes on and on and on. And then obviously they're the face of like their own respective, brands. But ultimately, it comes down to being able to separate the artist or presenter or actor or whatever they're doing from what they associate themselves with in a working life. So for instance, I would boil it down to like an actor in a film. Like, you don't actually see them, saving the world or something, and then like suddenly you go on their Instagram and they're at the pub with some friends and they're all knocking back shots. There has to come a point where audiences have to realize this is a person, and like, they've got to, separate what they hear in the morning or afternoon or whenever they're listening or watching or whatever. That there does come a point where it's kind of got to be a separate thing. So yeah, I'd say I don't really have a problem with like people posting what they're doing or whatnot. Obviously, if it's bad, yeah, that's a problem. But like, yeah, I'd say if it's something like, you're going out for a drink with some friends, or just like a really bad joke or something, fair enough. Yeah, go for it. I don't see a problem with it. The problem, I think, comes when you start going down into the, racism or sexism.
Then you don't deserve a job anyway, if you're willing to say that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you don't deserve a time of day if you go into that kind of aspect. Yeah, that's kind of my answer to it. Like, as long as you are being a good person at heart about it, and what you're posting is true, and it's like, it's not putting someone in a bad position or yourself, then yeah, fair enough, go for it. Like, I fully support that.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on it as well, because a lot of people, I've never actually had that answer. I've had, a lot of people just turn in and say, you should never be racism and sexism, and that's why I said that at the start, because obviously racism, it's I don't understand it, to be honest, but I understand it. You know what I mean? I don't know why people are like that, but like they end up saying, you know, you shouldn't be racist, and I'm like, yeah, we all know you shouldn't do that, but I'm curious to what other people think, because obviously there is keeping your character. So if you are going out, you know, drinking all the time and stuff, that's who you are. You might like alcohol. You know, you just might like it. So you want to post that, and you want to post you being with your mates. But then there does come a point where you can need to reel that. And this is just my opinion. You need to reel that back a little bit, so it shows employers that that's not all what you do, because they do check your, and you'll know this yourself. When you apply for media jobs, you have to, not all the time. There's how many times have I been asked? I think I've sent in total about maybe 19, 20, we'll say 20. I think it's 20. It could be more than that. 20 applications to, like, this is just over the last week or two, to the last, like, just radio stations, blah, 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 blah. And they all ask for your social media, because they want to see, one, what you're doing that's involved in, like, if you're involved in any media, and obviously because I'm involved in podcasts and that. And two, I think it's to see, like, who is this guy? Like, we want to know stuff about him, like, see what he's doing, and if he's saying it. Yeah, it does, you know. And as there's been a lot of instances where, like, when it does say stuff like that, it does come back to haunt you. Like, stuff will come back to haunt you. But if you always live in the rule that you, as my mum used to always say, still kind of does say, if you're going to post something, just post it like you're saying it to me directly. Like,
that's a good philosophy, and that's a good way of thinking about it. I remember one of my tutors recently, because we're doing this module at the moment in uni, where he's like, okay, so set up your work Twitters and your all this stuff. And he said, if you do have a Twitter that you don't really use, then you can use that, but do delete your old tweets, because we've all been 12 before and we've all said some really stupid things. And I'm just kind of, at that point, I'm just kind of sat there and I'm thinking, why would you, like, as a 12-year-old be doing that? And I just, like, to me, it doesn't make sense for people to just be full of hate, or to, you know, do this. And it doesn't make sense. So for me, it's always been a case of what I'm posting is true and what I feel, and that's it. That is it. Like, if you go back on my Instagram, it's like, I think the last post was probably like a 2021 review, like, you know, like the 10 pictures from last year. Other stuff is like either what I've been up to in, like, radio stuff or personal stuff, and like, and that's it. And I don't mind that, because I know that I wouldn't ever say or put myself in one of those positions where something like that would happen. I said, like, I just don't see why people would do that, to be honest.
No,
I think your mum's philosophy is perfect. I think she's hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, she's amazing. Like, she annoys the living daylights of me sometimes, but yeah, hey ho. As I say, she's downstairs currently, so, but I don't.
Oh, right, okay.
She just does. She won't anyway. But that's what happens when your mum's your best friend. But anyway, it's not about me. But as well as, like, people, you know, someone asked me this. I obviously ask everybody this question, but who did I speak to at the time? I want to remember the guy's name, because it kind of gives a certain context. It wasn't the last. I think it was Derek. Me and Derek Johnson talked about it, and many other things. And I said to him, and obviously got his point of view, amazing point of view. I won't say it because everybody that's go watch it. But after the show, it went up. I got a message from my guy saying, you know, I totally believe what you're down. He was like, but I want to say something that you never mentioned, and I won't say your name, mate, because I know you watch these. I promised. I asked him if I could mention this on the show, and he said, yeah, as long as you don't say my name. Fair enough. I won't say your name. So what he said was, okay, but what happens if you have, like, a work one, and then you have a private one? I said, that's fair enough. But do remember, though, that you never know who knows who. So somebody could know someone that's got access to your private account. I said, always remember that. Private's not private, because, again, you have people on it, and you never know who somebody knows. So there's always that avenue about it as well. It's that even though you have done, you know, you do have a private one, which, fair enough, whatever, do what you want to do. If you want to keep, like, you know, if you're in the public eye and you want to keep your love life, for example, separate, you know, your missus doesn't want to be in the public eye, or boyfriend or whatever, fair enough, they sit back and do that. But do remember, though, that if you're going to make a private account, you have people on there, and you never know who those people are going to know, and they could ask to see it. And there does come that it's, as you're saying, a great point of view on it, and we could talk for days and days on that. But there does come, like, again, people just kind of monitor what you put online a little bit. There's a wall, you don't go past it. If you want to be in the public eye and want to be a public figure, obviously, like radio presenter or even involved in TV or appearing on podcasts and that, you do kind of like, obviously your face is out there, so but you want to keep it on a fine line that you just don't even go near it. You just stay in it. Just my way of looking at it.
I get that. Yeah. No. Like for me, I feel like having having two accounts wouldn't make sense. I don't think.
No.
Especially like with, I can definitely see the appeal of it.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone like me, for instance, because like my shows have always been very personable. Like I was put in there originally back on Tameside's breakfast show. Andy put me in there because he said that he wanted someone relatable, and he wanted a kid in there. He wanted, because the audience was like typically like mums on the school run, so he wanted someone that would like feel relatable and like feel like a mum listening to their kid on air, and that's kind of what it's been. So for the audience that has stuck with me, I suppose it has been a weird way of them watching me grow up, which is kind of strange now I'm saying it. But at the same time, because it's a personality, it's a radio personality, as opposed to like there is presenting obviously, but like it is at the end of the day, it is a radio personality whether I like it or not. So for me, it doesn't really make sense to have two different a personal and a private one, because at the end of the day, I know I'm not gonna say something ridiculous like or racist or sexist, because that's just not me. And I will never put myself in that position because I don't believe in it. And I despise people who are like that.
Same, you're not the only one.
And
none of you were gonna say.
Like I feel like I'm going in circles with this, but I do feel like it just doesn't make sense for me to have one, because of that. Ultimately, it's a personality, and if people want to connect with me, whether they know me or whether they're listening through a show, or if they're even just a complete stranger, fair enough. Yeah, I'm open to it. I feel like I'm a pretty approachable guy, so yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But if you do have a personal and a public one, yeah, I totally get it.
See, I do have my own account, mrbigkyle, by the way. Anybody wants to know why it's called that? Because I get asked it all the time. It's because I do things way bigger than normal, but that's not a private account, no. That's literally my own thing, so that I'm not posted like, me training with my mates or competition stuff, anything like that. I'm not posting it on this because this is not what it's about. So that's the only reason I have that. If there was a way for me just not to have that, I probably wouldn't do it, because I kind of like communicate with people through it, like people I know and that. But I wouldn't say it's not private as such, because it's in the bio of the Instagram. Anybody can find it. It's not hard. But private accounts, I don't know. I'm off. Yeah, again, just seems like you're hiding something. But anyway,
I do get that. Yeah.
Anyway, let's change the topic, because we could go on about this all day, literally.
We could, yeah. No, I feel like there's like a dynamic here where we could
click it, yeah. And we also had an amazing idea for a show that we might do. I'm going to put that spoiler in there. Anyway, let's change the subject. You can't disagree with me. It was an amazing idea. So see, when you're because you were in radio at such a young age, and excuse me, you were wanting to be in the BBC at such a young age. Why was there not? Does that mean? I know you said 14, but there's obviously years before that. Does that mean you've always kind of wanted to be a presenter, or was there another thing? Like, for example, I quite wanted to be an astronaut when I was younger because it's cool. So is there that type of thing? Like, was there something else that you wanted to be, or was it always?
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I went through the astronaut phase as well. Like
car designer, car drifter, racer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like every 6-year-old boy did that at some point.
That was like the other week.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, fair enough. Hey, don't get me wrong. No, like, again, even now, like, because I'm really into like science and all that. If I was given the opportunity to like go to space, but it meant I had to drop everything, I'm doing that because like space is so cool. But yeah, no. As for if there's anything else that I wanted to do, God, I kind of went through a lot of phases as a kid. Now that I think about it, at one point I wanted to be a baker, which was quite strange, considering where I've ended up. God, let me think. Yeah, I wanted to be a baker at one point, but I think like especially with the BBC thing. At the time I was watching like a lot of like Top Gear and whatnot, because I took a massive interest into cars. Because like my dad's always been really into cars and planes and boats and all that. And yeah, for a time it was like a way of really connecting with him. And then I got really invested in Top Gear and like how they present that and how it is just three people messing about for an hour. And I thought, can I make that as a job? And like, can I do that? And like, I wanted to do that, and I wanted to be like this generation's version of that, and like, you know, obviously adapt a few things. But yeah, there was that originally, and then there's always been like I've always wanted to be an actor as well, and so yeah, the BBC originally kind of felt like a step in the right direction. And you never know. Maybe one day I'll change my mind and say, yeah, no, let's try that again. Let's give it a shot. But yeah, that's what it was originally. Originally, I wanted to go in to either become a TV presenter or to become an actor. I wanted to start. I wanted to be a runner when I was 15, and work my way up. But then, obviously, when with what happened. I ended up in radio, and I've loved that journey, and I want to see where it can take me. And you never know. Maybe one day I will pick up the acting or TV presenting thing again. That'd be really, really fun to do. Like if the opportunity ever came up, I'd definitely take it, because that's a really cool concept that I'd love to be a part of at some point.
I'm sure with what we spoke about, you will. So
hey, thank you. I hope so.
More to come on that soon, maybe. But anyway, I'm more curious about yourself. So you went from so because you know you're saying your school life, but aren't you like, because if people didn't know OMalley, you know you're Irish, but so like you were in a station at 14, 15. So where was the school?
Right, yeah,
station and school. That's the bit that's confused me a little bit, because morning show, school, I was like.
Also about the whole, just to clear up like real quick before like anyone like, you know, starts throwing stuff at me. Like I'm not fully Irish, no.
Right.
No. I was born. I've just got the most stereotypically Irish surname in history. No, my family. I don't know the exact history of it. We've been doing like loads of ancestry stuff. Like we know that I qualify for an Irish passport. That's how Irish I am. I qualify for an Irish passport, but that's all I know really. Yeah, there's loads of stuff I could go into there, but yeah, I was born here. I was born in England, and there's some history there that I'm not totally aware of. I'd love to find out more about it one day, but it's so complicated.
It's so expensive as well. That's the thing. It's crazy expensive.
It's really expensive. But yeah, no, like that's as much as we know so far. I qualify for an Irish passport, and that's it. That's all we know really. For me. Yeah, anyway. So what was the question? I kind of went on like a bit of a tangent there. It was like, how was I coping with school and radio?
Yeah, because obviously you were doing the morning show, and then you got school in the morning.
Oh, yeah, no. So like, well, no, just I think I probably jumped the gun a little bit when I was telling the story. When I was doing radio in secondary school, it wasn't the morning show. It was a show that was on Friday and Saturday nights from midnight until 2 a.m., which I'd go in and record on the Friday. So it wasn't ever like I wasn't allowed to do it live. it would have been very illegal if I did it live. So yeah, I went in on a Friday after school, and I'd record for about 2, maybe 3 hours, and get the shows done, and then my mum would pick me up and we'd go home. And that was basically it. It didn't really impact my school life really. I don't think it definitely changed my attitude, because I was always like a really kind of anxious, or like God, what's the word, like I was a very quiet kid.
Introverted, I think the word introverted.
Yeah, I was definitely very introverted in school. And then after I met Scott, and like after I'd done a few shows, it very quickly changed, and then I kind of became a bit of the two, a little bit extroverted, a little bit introverted, and now I don't know where I am. I'm just kind of like, it depends. It depends on what side of the bed I wake up on. But yeah, no, like with school, it didn't really affect me up until the last couple months of school, like when GCSEs were coming up. And I remember having a conversation with my form tutor, because she was like, you need to start coming after school to like these extra lessons. And I'm like, no, I have a future to plan for. I got to go off and do this. Like, I don't think she like fully grasped what I was doing, because like by this point there was already talks of me getting the apprenticeship, and I knew that's what I wanted. And for that to happen, I had to go in and do these shows. So yeah, she'd always like have a go at me for it. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna go have some fun for 2 or 3 hours. You'll have fun in English. And yeah, I don't think she ever really got the concepts of that up until I came back and I got the apprenticeship. And yeah, then I remember the last, I think it was probably 2, maybe 3 months. I can't remember exactly, but I got one of my friends who was in the year below me to go in and cover those midnight shows whilst I was studying. Because by that point the apprenticeship was confirmed and it was all fine and stuff. So I'd be going back there no matter what. And yeah, I kind of gave radio up for about 3 months and focused on studying. And yeah, I passed, and then it was great. And then for some reason I decided it was a good idea to have 1 week off from school, because when you finish GCSEs, it's like or for anyone listening abroad, like your final exams in high school or that. There's normally like a period of time for like if you're in your final year where you get a little bit extra time off, because there's no point going back after a certain point. And I remember I had a week off, and then I just went straight into work. I just started the apprenticeship, which I don't know why I did that. I must have been thinking about the money. I must have. But that's kind of what happened there. It didn't really affect me in school. It really kind of only benefited me, like in terms of growing as a person and actually being able to speak to people I normally wouldn't speak to, or yeah, it was just that was it. At the end of the day, it just kind of helped in a lot of ways. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend what I did, because a lot of it was risk taking. But it worked out, and it was a really, really good journey to go on in the end.
That's the thing, though. What you said, you wouldn't normally recommend it, but you do kind of need to take risks. You know what I mean?
You do, yeah.
I think what you've done as well, not to interrupt there, but what you've done as well is brave, because again, you're willing to handle rejection, obviously. or you wouldn't have had the well, it'll just help you deal with it, but it also help you deal with like some backlash, because I can imagine you were getting backlash and negativity. You were getting a little bit of negativity. So how did you learn how to deal with the negativity? Because it's not as easy as a lot of people think. Oh, I can't think of anything I want to say, but you know, you get negativity, for example, or like, don't wear this hat, girl, because of like it's not nice, blah 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 blah. But you can have to, you don't develop the thick skin until after a while. So how did you like learn how to develop a thick skin or like deal with negativity at 15, I think you said?
Oh God, yeah. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to say I had an easy ride with all of it, but like looking back on a lot of it, I was very privileged with all of this, which is why I'm right now, like, because like you don't realize like how well off you are until like something changes. And it's only kind of recently that I've like reflected and like looked back, and I was like, no, I was in a really, really good position. I didn't like but like as for negativity, starting out, there wasn't really much negativity at first, because I think people just kind of thought it was a hobby, or that I'd kind of like give up on it or something, or like just kind of that thing. I remember a little bit of like, I don't want to say it was backlash, because it wasn't, but it was kind of like a shock to the system, I think, with both my mum and dad, when I said I want to do an apprenticeship in radio, and I want this to be my job. I remember them kind of going, "Are you sure?" I was like, it's like, is this a good idea? And I remember thinking at the time, it was like, it's the best job in the world. Because it is the best job in the world. You get to listen to music, and then you get to have a laugh and meet some really incredible people, and it's just a really, really fun experience. And I knew that, and I knew that's what I wanted. And I was like, yeah, I really want to do this. And I can't remember it exactly, but like I remember my mom was like, okay, yeah, fair enough, let's do it. And my dad, I remember, I don't remember exactly what he was like before, but I remember once I got the apprenticeship, once like I started like having proper meetings about it, and like I got a contract, I remember he was like really at ease. Like he was like, okay, yeah, he'll be okay. I remember that. I do remember the because he never said that like out loud, but I do remember the transition. It was like worrying, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe it's okay. But like as for dealing with negativity, I don't really think, like, especially in school, I don't really think I got much negativity. It was mostly support. I think the most negativity I got was probably from my form tutor at the time, because I was skipping on these classes. But yeah, like for the most part, the people that have sat with me on this journey have been incredibly supportive. Like they've been really, really supportive. Like I it's something you don't realize until a long time after the fact, but like I have had a lot of support through all of this, and not really realized it. Like looking back on a lot of it, there's been a lot of people who have like stayed for the journey, or like have come and gone, or like they're still coming and going. And there's people who've been there from day one, and it has just been a never-ending train of support. But like as for dealing with I think the most negativity I like, where it would really become stressful, was I think probably I would have been about 16ish, 17, I think, like, so into the apprenticeship at this point. Because there was just all this support. I was being babied. I was like, I was wrapped up in cotton wool or bubble wrap or anything. I was like being really well looked after, and then suddenly, to be treated as an adult, and it was a really, really strange shift. But I think the way that I kind of got to deal with it, and the way that I deal with it now, is that you sum up the pros and cons. If there's more pros, then try to move on from the negative. But if there's like cons, if there's more cons than there are pros, then maybe there's cons there for a reason, and maybe it's worth reflecting on what you're doing and seeing if you can do something better, or switching it up, or just either dropping something completely. It does get to a point where you do have to really think about the criticism that you're getting, and changing some stuff up depending on how many people like it, how many people don't. It's all a balancing act, I think.
Yeah, totally agree with you. The thing is, as well, is that it's impressive that you managed to do that at such a young age, though. Like, that's,
yeah, like you say that, like, I guess I've kind of made it out as though I came up with that. I didn't. I really didn't. I remember my original boss just kind of saying to me, like, not everyone's going to like what you do. And I remember I think there was one show I did where, like, I must have just been having a really bad day or something. Like, I was really nervous, or just something happened. I think I got one negative comment, and the rest of it was really, really supportive. But I got one negative comment, and that was the one that stood out to me the most. And he just kind of said to me, like, weigh it up. More people like what you're doing than don't. So, like, carry on. It's one person. And at the end of the day, like, now, as I'm looking back on that advice, it is just like, people have different taste and whatnot. So for some people, yeah, fair enough. I might I might be the best presenter in the world to them. For others, I'm not. I'm really not. And there has got to come a point where you've got to learn that people do have different tastes, and you have to accept whether or not sometimes what they are saying is valid. Sometimes it's just totally invalid and just pure hate for no reason. But, like, you do have to analyze everything that comes in. Well, if it's a reasonable amount coming in, if it's just loads of stuff, yeah, fair enough. I can totally see why some people don't, like, look into reviews or anything. But, like, for me, it really helped to reflect on a lot of stuff, and, like, to get that kind of mindset that I'm not going to be for everybody, but if I can, I remember this is another thing he came out with: if you can make one person smile a day, you've done your job. And that has stuck with me, and that is one of my philosophies, especially when I'm doing the show. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. If I can make one person happy, then I'm happy. Like, that's that for me.
Well, you did.
Thank you. Hey, you've done that as well. Like, that's not gone unnoticed. Don't worry.
But yeah, it's on a serious note. It's quite an interesting story, though, because, like, not a lot of people have the motivation of that, because, as people will know, I certainly was not like that at that age. But not a lot of people. How did you have, like, because obviously you were saying you're obviously really supportive parents, but so did I. So, like, it's hard to, a lot of people say, oh, it's because my parents were supportive. It's like, yeah, okay, but there's something else. So what was the other thing that, like, kept you motivated and kept you going? Because, as you said yourself, your social life obviously took a hit because you were constantly either at school or all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and you would be tired and that. So what was the other driving factor behind it?
One of the biggest driving factors for me, and continues to be, is my dad. Like, he comes out with some of the best dad quotes ever. Like, you get out what you put in, and he has said that to me for as long as I can remember. I'm not even making that. That is literally as long as I can remember. You get out what you put in. Work your hardest at everything that you can do, So yeah, for me, it's always just been a case of trying to live up to that. Like there's a load of quotes, and hell, even the that famous old Spider-Man one from it. We talk about dream jobs earlier on. Spider-Man. If I was ever cast as Spider-Man in anything like a Marvel film, that would be my dream job. Okay, seriously. No, but hell, that like old Spider-Man quote that with great power comes great responsibility, which in my case was looking out for local companies or charities or people that genuinely need help. And I was able to showcase that through radio. And then, but yeah, the big motivating factor was definitely the main one was my dad and like trying to live up to his expectations. And then the second one was when I first kind of realized that what I was doing was having a positive impact. That definitely, that definitely. I'm trying to find the words. I'm really sorry.
No, don't be. It's cool.
It really set in motion what I wanted to do.
Yeah. The what you said though is I'm curious. I've actually been waiting to ask you this question. With great power comes great responsibility. Are you sure that's Spider-Man? Is that
Yeah, it's definitely Spider-Man. Yeah, it was Uncle Ben, but like,
was that? I thought that was like Batman or something.
Oh no, you're gonna give me a headache. Oh no, trust me, it was Spider-Man.
I'm gonna get now. The hate I'm gonna get for that.
Oh, you have just opened a can of worms you are not ready for, my friend, believe me.
The more, get me loads of views. But no, on a serious note, I thought that Alfred said that to Bruce, that when he first came in the suit, I thought he said, "Remember, with great power comes great." I thought he said that
no,
when they were in the back.
That was definitely Uncle Ben to Peter Parker. God, what would Alfred say to Batman?
I thought no, because he did say something like that. People call me out on that, but like he did. I because there was like,
which Batman are we talking? Because there's been a lot of Batman.
There has, yeah. I just thought about what I just said. I'm not very good at people's names. Not the guy that played Christian Bale. Christian
Bale.
When he was Batman, Alfred said that to him because when he was going on about remember when, or was it Morgan Freeman said it to him in the Bane one when he was looking for Bane and he went and with all the cameras. Remember when he had all the cameras and then he got showed
no, I remember now. I remember the scene you're on about. I watched this the other day, actually.
Was he not saying that with great power?
Yeah, no, it was. No, he said having this much power is wrong for one person to have, or something like that, because it was like it was a big sonar thing, and they were spying on everybody.
Yeah.
It was like this is wrong. Like it was like the final thing that they were putting down.
So I'm kind of right.
Yeah, you're kind of right. Yeah,
I had to stop the hate somewhere.
But that's kind of like a pretty good juxtapose there, is because he got that for the greater good, and then Spider-Man's whole philosophy is with great power comes great. It's a whole debate you could have there. Wow.
Yeah, I think is it the Medina effect? Is that how you say that? Again, I'm not
Mandela effect. Yes,
that's what the Mandela effect. That's maybe what's making me think that, like, because I thought that happened. That's such an interesting topic as well. By the way, the Mandela effect it blows your mind. I mind when I was younger. I did a YouTube. Me and my mate did a YouTube series thing. Just like we're talking, like, I mean, I'm 27 now, so we're talking years ago. About 10 years ago, maybe a little bit before that, and we were talking about that, and we end up talking about the Mandela effect, and it's mental. Like, and the things because he was asking me questions about it. Did you know this? Did you know that? And I was like, oh, like the color of somebody's. I think it was the color of Pikachu's tail or something like that. Was it a certain color versus the other color? And I was like, it was the other color. It did have a little bit of this. And he was like, it didn't. Look at the picture. And I was like, wow. Yeah,
it was like one of my favorite ones is does Moneybags from Monopoly. Does he have a monocle or does he not?
Yeah, he doesn't.
And even now, as I'm saying it, I'm like, does he? I don't think he does.
Yeah, but like there's I can remember there was this guy on this weird thing to go, a funny thing to come to the end on, I guess, but a weird thing to go off on is that he had these old 70s goggles and he was accusing it of time travel. But what it was, he was pranking everybody. It was a huge prank. It was last April the 1st, and so many people fell for it. And then he came out with a video, was like, yeah, haha, got y'all. And he was getting so much hate, but it was brilliant. He put these 3D glasses on, and the camera, like obviously the camera lens, like obviously one of these. And then he came up on it, and then he was like, he turned in, he was like, right, you know, this is it. And he put the camera button, he was like, I can see into a parallel universe. Look at all these Mandela effects you thought were right and were true. And you could clearly see, you could hear him laughing in the background. You could like, clearly this guy's lying, like clearly. And I don't like to call people a liar, but he's a liar. Like, and he was, obviously. It was a huge joke. And I followed him on TikTok, and I'm not saying his name because you're not getting a shout out, because I don't want to get the hate for saying what you did was funny. But yeah, it's so many. He was like, yeah, I can see into a parallel universe, and oh man, it was really well edited and done. To be fair, like it must have took hours and hours and hours to edit that to perfect.
Yeah,
but it was brilliant. April the 1st last year was incredible. But yeah, anyway, I do have some questions before we finish up on that. I like to ask people on a kind of like a not a pure serious note, but they are a little bit serious.
Okay.
See when you're having to get obstacles coming in your way, like whether it doesn't matter what it is, like any type of obstacle. How do you deal with the obstacles? And if like you got an example you could give that would make it easier for.
Oh God. I think it really depends on the obstacle. Like it really, really depends. If it's like an essay that I've got to do, panic could probably be the first step. No, I'm kidding. No, I feel like for me it would be more of like a kind of like assess what is actually going on, and then try and formulate a plan to go about it. There's a load of answers you could give to that. It really depends on what the obstacle is. But like one that I just have had, actually, it was for a module that I had to hand in back in December, and they were asking me to do loads and loads of stuff, and then like suddenly the assessment kind of got changed like midway through, and I was like, why would you do that? So they did, and yeah, I kind of got to the point I had to make like a checklist of things that I had to do, and then just like work my way down the list, because I'm one of those people that, like, if I don't come up with like a list of things that I've got to check off, I'll spiral, or I'll start flapping. Like, it won't be the best quality it can. But if I do make a list, then of like something that isn't so unmanageable, sorry. Yeah, I feel like I just flat. But once I figured out, no, just write a list and do it. Like, it was a lot easier to kind of wrap my head around and work out. So yeah, I think it really depends. But for me, lists are quite helpful.
True. That's what always a lot of people are wondering when they have to multitask or do like multiple different things. Like, how on earth can you? And it's just as simple as, like, for example, I'll use notes on my phone. Have weekly schedules, so I'll know when everything's supposed to come out, who's coming on. I do that. Even with college stuff, it's all related back. It kind of looks like a jumble to some people, but it makes so much sense to me. It's definitely you do need to have like a way about it, and like a way to go about it, to be honest. But
you absolutely do, yeah. Otherwise, you just spiral and you'll end up a mess.
Yeah, exactly. You've clearly done a lot, and we've talked about negativity. We've talked about various different stuff. Yeah. But fear is something that you've not said, oh, I was really like afraid of that, or I had a fear of this, a fear of that. Have you ever had to like, it's a really deep question, but have you ever had to like face your fears before? No, I don't mean like spiders, and I don't mean phobias, fears. Because I mean, somebody said that I've had to face my fear. I had to put a spider in a jar and put it out of the house this morning. And I was like, that's not what I meant. Like, I get
in terms of industry, yeah.
Yeah, like, or personally, not literally like what you're afraid of.
Yeah, no, a few times. I remember saying to you a few minutes ago that when I was in school, especially, I was like really introverted and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And like obviously that like continued, and there has always been an aspect of that, like, you know, that I'm overcompensating in a sentence, or I'm gesturing too much. I do that now. I'm doing that now. I'm literally doing that now. That's always just been something that I've always done. But I remember the first time that was like really kind of like facing my fears was me and Scott were invited down to a Christmas light switch on in a town called Droylsden in Manchester, and yeah, we were kind of presenting for the show, and then like we'd help some of the acts get on stage and whatnot, and that was terrifying, like being on stage in front of hundreds of people to watch a Christmas light be turned on. That was terrifying, being the face of that. I remember I posted this one picture on Facebook and Instagram, it like me and Scott in front of the crowd behind us. And I was like, yeah, the caption was like, oh yeah, this is so cool. I've got this. And inside I'm like, I don't got this. I'm terrified. I was like, what if I mess up? What if I like walk on stage and I trip and I face plant in front of hundreds of people? It was always that. Yeah, there's always been that. The second time, and there's another picture of this that's floating around somewhere, was for the relaunch of Tameside Radio. We were just told randomly by the big boss to just go on stage and just announce everything, and we were like, we've had no time to prep. We don't know what we're doing. But like Scott's like a seasoned presenter. He's incredible. He knows what he's doing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got that mentality that I've always wanted. I feel like if I did it now, I'd be a lot better than I was. But I remember at the time, because I hadn't even done like, oh, it was awful. I remember I walked up and we'd kind of prepared what we needed to say, and then I remember I skipped like a whole line, and then I nearly went back on it again. This is in front of hundreds of people, and we're on a stage. I think it might be stage fright. I might have stage fright, maybe, which you know is a bit weird. But I remember there's a picture floating around somewhere. Scott's mid-sentence. I think it's on my Instagram actually, that picture. But Scott's mid-sentence, and then I'm there. The microphone is like down here at my chest. It's like down here, so like I'm already not very audible, and you can just tell that I'm thinking like, when will this be over? When can I go backstage, or like when can I go and do anything else? I'm terrified and so uncomfortable. And you could just see in my picture, and there's been a few memes that my friends have been thinking about. It's like, you know, I'm thinking about tea, or I'm thinking about dinner, or whatever. Or yeah, I think stage fright has probably been a big one that I've kind of had to tackle. I feel like I've gotten a lot better with it now. But like starting out, yeah, that was terrifying. Stage fright was awful at first.
Yeah, I do it again. It's hard overcoming obstacles, but I do want to reiterate just before we finish that it just shows you like you clearly can overcome them, because everything that you said you were going to like overcome, you've clearly done it. And the whole stage thing, I mean, I get that. It's the fact of performance over what's it called? Performance over playing, or something like that. There's like it's something a drama like that, saying or something. Yeah. I mind one of the drama students that I know, he was telling me about it. You know, he was explaining how it works and how to present yourself, and he said that type of thing. But yeah, before we go, I do want to thank you for coming on. It's been a lot of fun. Like,
hey, yeah, seriously, thank you for having me on. I remember I said this to you just before we started recording, but like to be on this end of an interview is very strange.
Yeah.
And like at first I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be weird. But no, it's been really fun. Like I've really enjoyed this conversation.
I appreciate that.
Honestly, I can't wait for your future episodes. I can't, honestly. I'm really happy that you got it. I'm really happy you got in touch.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah,
like I said,
I can't wait to see what you do next.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I do have some big projects. I know we were joking about this episode, we actually do have it's a funny idea. It's a cool idea though, but I've actually, I've got some ideas on things I want to do as well. And so that means a lot. You're giving me a lot of boosters, just like various different projects. But yeah, like I said to you before, and like everybody that knows that's watching this as well, that when you get asked to come on the show, it's a conversation. It is an interview. Obviously, we need to find out about you, but it's related subjects.
Absolutely.
It's just I like to make people feel comfortable. So the fact that you do feel comfortable, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And what I want to say as well is everybody, the support, the views, the comments and stuff are just crazy. Like it's crazy that we went from, because the channel was still picking up views, obviously, because even though I had nothing to do with it. But then when I came back, I said to James and it's been overwhelming. So I do want to say thank you very much, and I appreciate that. And it's just going to get better. And everybody that's listening, also, if you want to listen, on a little bit of a serious note, we're now out on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. You can also get us on like Breaker and Anchor and things like that, but on Radio Public. But I don't actually know much about them, so I usually just brand the stuff everybody knows about. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please remember, like, comment, subscribe. Feel free, again, I'll emphasize this every single episode. The Derek Johnson one that we spoke about, his DMs are always open constantly about mental health struggling. I'm sure James is the same, but we specifically said that we're always going to be constantly open for people. He maybe helps people I don't know. We don't talk about who we help and nothing like that. I know I've helped people, and he probably has himself. But before we go as well, I forgot actually. What are your social medias so that people can maybe like follow along? Whether it's like maybe just Instagram or just Twitter or both, it's completely up to you.
I'm at OMalley himself on Instagram. And Twitter, I don't really use Twitter much anymore, but
we can still stick by Instagram if you want. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's stick with Instagram. Instagram's my main one. It's OMalley himself, and I'm sure if I ever open Twitter up again at some point, I'll probably put it on Instagram or something, but Instagram's the main one.
And let me know when you do that, and I'll put it down in the bio for you, even if it's years time. I'll do that. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. James, thank you very much again, and I hope you have a nice night.
Thank you. You too.
Take care, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching.